Welcome back to another episode of George in the Jungle. I'm Aaron Smith, joined as always by the one and only legend himself, George Vogel. And this show is brought to you by Remington Tavern. Remington Tavern can be found at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140. They have daily happy hours from 3 to 7 p.m., $5 Woodford Wednesdays. That's tomorrow for all of you who can't keep track. And they can be found on Instagram at RemiTav, REMITAV, Cincy with a Y, or you can find them and follow them on Facebook. George, it has been a wild and crazy night. A game that the Bearcats were down by as many as 11, I believe. And they storm back, take it to overtime, and come out victorious at home in front of a Fifth Third arena that included yourself in attendance, and win 81-77, covering whether you caught it at 2.5 or 3.5. They covered that spread miraculously.
It was miraculously winning the game, actually, the way that started. But I'll tell you, first of all, just the atmosphere and everything, it was crazy. It was crazy. And at the beginning, it was the usual late arriving crowd. But about the time tip-off happened, I'm like, man, there's still a lot of empty seats. And not just the empty seats down low by the Champions Club on that side, because those people are always up there grabbing their free food and drinks. But the upper deck, and it filled in, and that was a tremendous environment tonight, just tremendous. And my biggest takeaway is that early in this season, I questioned the heart of this team. I really did. And, after Dayton and Xavier and some of the things we saw, I questioned the heart of this team. I didn't know if they had the stones to do what they needed to do to compete night in and night out in the Big 12. And after that performance tonight, I won't even begin to question that. That was a gutted out, live and die every possession game. And boy, the further it got into the game, it seemed like the harder those kids were playing. And both teams played their butts off. That was a tremendous college basketball game for the regular season. And I'm telling you, I never thought UC would ever see the days they had in the Big East when that started and how great that conference was. Look at these games that they've had so far in the Big 12 this year. And every one of them has been a flat-out brawl down to the final freaking buzzer. And tonight was the same way. It was tremendous. And you talk about getting your money's worth on these tickets. I'm getting my money's worth. And it's funny. And I see these comments, and I'm just laughing so hard because everything I see down this list of comments is stuff I was thinking. Day Thomas starts out that game and looks like he was terrible early in that game. And down the stretch, he was unbelievable in that game. I mean, he really, really made some great plays, and his defense was amazing. And, John Newman missed some free throws again that mattered and then was able to make up for that in overtime. And it's just, wow. It takes your breath away when you're at a game like that and the crowd's into it like that. And the crowd was on its feet a lot and probably made a difference in the outcome of this game. It was, if you wondered if big-time basketball is back in Cincinnati, it's back at Fifth Third Arena for sure. That was big-time basketball tonight. Tremendous.
Yeah, the announcers on the broadcast made mention of the crowd several different times throughout the broadcast as to they hadn't been to an arena that had been that loud in some time. I'm always watching to see if the red sweater crowd down in that lower bowl is on their feet, and it seemed like there were quite a few times they were on their feet tonight. So my hat goes off to them tonight. We appreciate you, lower bowl red sweater crowd, for getting into the game. How could you not,
right,
for that matter? But it did end up with the fans rushing the court. When was the last time we saw a crowd at Fifth Third Arena?
I don't know. In fact, the announcer said they didn't know either, that they couldn't remember. And it was funny because the people with me were like, oh, man, I mean, yeah, they beat a ranked team, and it's the first Big 12 win at home and that kind of stuff. Like, do we need to be rushing the court? And it's kind of like, I liked it because I watched the TCU game before the UC Baylor game the other night, and the TCU fans rushed the court on that one. And I remember seeing the Baylor players having to walk through the fans and you're hoping nothing happens crazy. And then I'm watching the TCU players. Think about that. They just had their people storm the court Saturday. And now here they are on Tuesday night, and they're walking through opposing fans storming the court. I'm like, they just got a taste of what Houston got Saturday night. It's funny how quickly that stuff comes around to make you see the other side of it. But it was just, and you're right, the so-called red sweater crowd, they were on their feet a lot. And I would look, and where I have a seat, I don't have any people in front of me. So I'm never sure if I should, stand or not. I stand when I think I should. And I look, and it's like everybody all the way up that upper deck was standing for a lot of overtime, a lot of the second half, when it got close down the stretch. And I just kept sitting there thinking, my God, I'm getting every dollar's worth for these tickets. It was tremendous. I wouldn't miss it for the world. And by God, I can't wait for Saturday against Oklahoma. And tonight was such a must win because, you don't want to lose this and then really put yourself behind the 8 ball when Oklahoma comes in, because that would be, and it's too early for must wins and all that, but you don't want to drop both of these home games, and they're ranked teams. And, it's not easy to win those. And it's almost expecting, you could win them both. You got to win one, and they at least have ensured they're going to win one of them. But my God, this Big 12 conference, I knew it was good, but what I've seen in these first, 4 games in?
4 games in, 2-2. Yeah.
It is crazy. And these kids are good. They compete. My God, those TCU players made some shots. Early in the game, they couldn't miss. We saw that. And I thought the defense stunk early in the game. I don't know what goes on early in the game with this team. And I think that's something we've talked about it before. Somehow they got to kind of figure that out. Because, TCU had like 23 points in the first 4.5 minutes of that game. I saw, I remember I told the guy next to me, I'm like, at this point, they're going to score 100 by halftime. That's the pace they were on.
Well, TCU, just to interrupt you real quick, TCU also had turned the Bearcats over 5 times before the Bearcats even had turned over TCU. They finally got one, and the Bearcats already had 5 at that point. I mean, none of it was all sloppy.
Yeah, it was bad. And I think Day had 2 or 3 turnovers early in that game. I know he had at least 2 early.
Well, he only finished with 3, so.
Yeah, no, he completely turned his game around.
Yeah.
And that kid's energy and defense and didn't finish everything. The one time I don't know how he missed that one, but that stuff happened at both ends. The refs drove me nuts again, and I'm usually not a guy that complains about the refs, but this crew tonight, it's funny. I walk out, and there's 2 TCU fans walking out, which I never saw one TCU fan there the entire night until I'm walking out. And there's a dude in a purple hat, and I'm like, is that a TCU hat? I see on the back, it was like Go Frogs or something. And then his wife or girlfriend's with him. Maybe it was his sister. I don't know, but it was a woman. She's got on some purple, and I'm like, okay. I just told him, I go, my God, that was a heck of a game. I mean, what a game. And what's the TCU fan say? Those refs have got to go. And it's like, so both fan bases were kind of hacked off. And look, in overtime, there was that one long review, and you got Skillings at the line, and it's like you're icing the dude, even though maybe you don't have to. But it was just like, come on, figure it the freak out and get this game going. I just I don't like to bitch about refs. I really don't. But I am complaining about that crew because that's not the first time they've been at Fifth Third Arena, and they got to get their act together.
Well, that sequence where Dan is shooting a free throw and then the refs go back to the video monitor and essentially ice the free throw shooter to go try and figure out the timing on the clock. What the hell are we doing at that point? I have no idea. I've never seen refs go in between free throw shots to go review the clock and make sure that the clock is right and then add on more time. Like all of that entire sequence was one of the strangest things I've ever witnessed.
Yeah, it was nuts. And people at the arena were like, what in the world is going on? What are they looking at? And it just went on and on. And that's not the way it should be. I mean, they got to fix that. This crew's got to get their heads out of their rear ends and figure this out, because I'm telling you, as I said, it's not the first time I've seen this crew, and it's not the first time they've had issues. And I don't know. I just wish they'd fire that whole crew and start over, because they just haven't. I mean, seriously, you got to hold these people accountable. They're running the game, and this stuff's going on, and it just they've got to do better than what these guys have done since I've been watching this season and seen this crew. But I hate to complain about that. And if you see it lost, you don't blame it on the refs. I'm sitting there. I'm kind of a doomsday guy, and I kind of. Maybe I give up too early and I don't have much of a heart. I don't know, but I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, if UC loses this game, I can't pin it all on the refs. I'm going to pin it on the first 5 minutes of that ball game, the way UC came out and went down, I believe, double digits in the first 5 or 6 minutes of that game. You've got to come out and be a little more focused, fired up. I don't know what the word is, but my God, they were terrible the first 5-6 minutes. In fact, I saw our buddy Kerry Hoffman at halftime, and we were talking about those first few minutes, and he's like, yeah, they were on a pace to score 180 in the game or whatever, and he goes, but after the first 5 or 6 minutes, they gave up like 9 points the rest of the way in that first half. I mean, they really tightened it up, and when you see that happen, you got to give Wes Miller a lot of credit for that. You got to give him a ton of credit for somehow setting them straight, getting that defense going. And they did get that defense going in that first half to stem the tide a little bit and allow them to stay in that ball game and have a chance to win.
Yeah, I'm showing the largest lead in the first was at the 7.5 minute mark. It was 29-18. And that lead was 11 points, so at least according to the stats I have here. So, I don't know. It was a wild and crazy game. It featured a couple legacies in Jameer Nelson Jr., who's a dog.
My God. When I saw his name on the roster, I saw Jameer Nelson. I'm like, no way. Oh, yeah, it's him. I remember his daddy, and he was so good. God, playing for Phil Martelli at St. Joe's. I mean, my God, that kid was he played what? He played more than 10 years in the NBA, I believe. And that kid is a player. He is, what a player. The talent, basketball talent there's so many good players in the country. And it's just off the charts how good these kids are. And win or lose, and this is rationalizing when if UC would have lost this game. But my God, I saw some great plays in that game and some great talent and just kids going at it. I enjoy that so much. I just love sitting there and watching these kids play. I tell you, both teams left it all out there tonight, and this is just the beginning of conference play. We're 4 games in, and the fact that we're going to get a steady diet of this is very exciting. And you thought after the non-conference, it's like, God dang, they're going to really have to do something to be tournament worthy, they're off to a decent start.
Yeah,
You know?
2-2.
Yep.
Jameer Nelson, 14 years in the league, it looks like, from 04 to 2018. He now is the head coach at for the Delaware Bluecoats of the NBA G League.
Oh, wow. I think I saw him in the NCAA tournament out in San Diego once, I believe. I think UC was out there, and I don't think they were doing pods back then. I think they may have been like, they had a couple of different brackets of regions, but I think they were out there. I think that's where I saw him. That's also where I saw Bill Walton, and I felt so bad because he could hardly walk. I'm like, my God, that was one. I mean, he had so many things with his legs and feet. But yeah, I think I got a chance to see him. I think that's where it was. And yeah, he was playing for Phil Martelli, and I believe that's where it was out in San Diego. And just tremendous player. If you remember those St. Joe's teams back then. Hell, one year, I think they got through the regular season undefeated before they got to the tournament, if I remember correctly. And I would be shocked if that wasn't one of Jameer Nelson's teams.
The other legacy player for TCU is Chuck O'Bannon, Charles O'Bannon's.
Oh, wow. I remember him too. What number was Chuck? I mean,
he only played 2 minutes.
And sometimes these numbers run together.
I believe he was the guy who had like the pigtail braids.
Okay. I love that kid's hairdo. When they introduced him, and it kind of had like a Rayvon Griffith look to his hair. Oh my God, I love that that hairstyle is hilarious. I love it. But man, TCU, they got some players and they got a coach. Jamie Dixon's been doing it for a long time. He knows how to win games. He knows how to coach defense. And boy, they put on a show tonight. It's a good win to beat them at home. I mean, what they do last week, they beat Houston and they beat Oklahoma, right? They're coming off those. Those are big wins. And
right.
UC got them tonight. That's a damn good win.
And Trey Tennyson, fantastic shooter.
Oh, God.
Bonkers, going 5 of 8 on the night. I was terrified that he was going to be the one to kill us.
He tried.
He did. He most certainly did. But I don't know where on this team that they're really lacking anything. TCU. I felt like they just top to bottom, 1 through 5. They don't have a ton of bench depth, I guess. Maybe the knock on them. As the only guys playing any significant numbers were Jameer Nelson and Jacoby Coles. Outside of that, nobody topped 9 minutes from the bench.
They hit the boards good too, and that sequence late in the game when UC couldn't get a darn rebound and TCU kept, it felt like 2 straight possessions. They kept getting rebounds and were able to get putbacks, and that was a critical point in the game. And that's when I sat there and I thought, this ain't going to happen for the Bearcats tonight.
Yeah, TCU finishes with 41 rebounds on the night compared to Cincinnati's 35. The big difference there, though, is Cincinnati had 9 offensive rebounds and TCU finished with 18.
They had 18 offensive rebounds?
They had 18 offensive rebounds, and I guarantee you
that was a lot, but God, I didn't know it was that many. Holy crap.
That's going to be something that Wes just probably pounds on as they break down film.
Coach always wants something to beat his team up for.
Man.
He can beat them up for the early part of that game, but he can really beat them up with that stat. Holy God. Yeah, you can't let that happen.
Some of the stats though for the Bearcats.
Beat them up on free throw shooting too, by the way.
Some of the stats
issues there too, but my God, finally late in the game, thank God, UC was able to make the free throws for the most part when it counted. But
a redemption story for John Newman after missing the free throws in an opportunity to win the game against Texas. He gets to make the free throws tonight against Texas Christian.
Yeah, well, that kid played a hell of a game. Wasn't perfect, but my God, you don't have to worry about him leaving anything in the tank. He gives it all, and it's fun to watch. And And I'm glad the Bearcats have him. He's a dog.
Some other stats that are jumping off the page for me, though. The Bearcats, I believe this is the most assists they've had in a game, certainly in conference play, but maybe all year. 17 assists in a game for the Bearcats.
That's good.
Led by Day with 6, and he's not generally a pass-first guy, as we've come to find out. And Jizzle was number 2 at 4, and I don't know that they've combined for 10 assists ever.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. Let me ask you this. When Vic launched that first 3 and missed it, could you believe he reloaded again a few possessions later and knocked it down? No. If the guy 2 seats next to me could have screamed any louder, no, my ear's still ringing for that. And he drops it, and I just gave him the 2 Vs for Victor.
I did not want him shooting that second one. I
did.
I yelled at my TV, and it goes in.
He did it.
And Rachel's sitting there watching the game with me, and she said, "Does he even have that shot in his bag?" And I'm like, "Sometimes."
Yeah.
I said, I'll take it.
But that shows the faith, and I don't know if that was the shot they wanted, but they had him out there again, and whoo, boy, that took some kahunas to throw that thing up there if you're Victor Locken, but he got it to go. Hell, he drained it, but that was a big shot in that game. But they all were. When it goes to overtime and you win like they did, that's the thing. Like we always pay attention at the end of the game, but those possessions at the beginning of the game matter too. It's like, that's why I'm sitting there saying, yeah, I don't like these refs and I don't like the game they called. And as I said, I don't care if they launch this crew. I'd fire them tomorrow. But you can't blame it on that because of how poorly UC started the game. And if they'd lost that game, I would have gone back to that and said, that's where they lost it.
Yeah, it was – I don't know. I know I brought up that stat where TCU had turned over Cincinnati 5 times before Cincinnati had turned them over once, but TCU finished with I believe 19 turnovers on the game.
Wow.
Yeah, 19, and Cincinnati only finished with 15. So Cincinnati certainly cleaned it up.
And that's too many. But when you turn them over 19, and TCU, we knew they're a team that can turn people over.
They were averaging 16 coming into this game.
God. Yeah, that's a good team. You give that coaching staff and Jamie Dixon a lot of credit for that because he's always had that kind of calling card and has done a great job. And could have been at UCLA if he didn't have such a big buyout, but that was the domino that didn't fall that led to Mick being out there.
Sure. Anything else on this game where that really stood out to you? I mean, you were down there.
I was. The only time I got up was go to the bathroom and get a beer, and I was exhausted at the end of this thing. I'll tell you that. I was exhausted. It was so much fun. It was just wow. The energy in there, it was amazing, and it sure as hell wasn't that way the first 10 minutes of that game. But man, once they got that game down, it was just so much fun. And I'm just so grateful to see them playing in this conference and having these big-time athletes come in and play. And quite honestly, I can't wait till Saturday when Oklahoma rolls in. It's going to be the same thing again. And, man, it's my buddy's like, well, because I said this to them. I'm like, my God, I can't believe we're in another one of these games in the Big 12, and it seems like every game is like this. And it's better than I thought it was going to be. And I go, this is so much better than what we saw the last several years in the American. And I don't want to degrade the American. They were great for UC. But, and my friend's like, well, if this was East Carolina, they'd probably only be up 2 then on them too. And it's like, yeah, but it's a different up 2 because UC would be playing crappy and they're barely beating a team that's not very good. It's not the same energy. It's not It's just different when you are at this level and having these teams come in. And I knew this was a good basketball conference, but what I've seen in the first 4 games and other games I've watched on the side, TCU, for God's sakes, beat Houston Saturday night in a tremendous game, and Houston is damn good. Kelvin Sampson's done it again, and they're going to be a tough beat for anybody in this conference, but TCU did it. And I think there's only one team without a loss now in the conference, and, it's early on. It's just like you're going into that ring and you're taking punches every night, no matter who you are. And God, I welcome it. It's so much fun. If you're not going to the games, people, you got to find a way to go, because it has been tremendous. And get there before game time, before tip-off, because it's still happy hour and you can get those Cincy lights half off.
There you
$5
go.
for a big one. Oh, yeah. You walk into that arena and you go right to the beer guy and get 2 Cincy lights. It's $10 plus tax.
Not bad.
And please always tip your bartender. Yeah.
Texas Tech is the only undefeated team currently at 3-0 still. They did not play tonight. They play Houston tomorrow.
Recently, who did I see them play?
They play Houston tomorrow at Houston.
Oh my God, that's must-see TV there.
Pretty much. That'll be on ESPNU at 9:00. Houston favored by 11.5 in that one.
Good. That gives me something to do later tomorrow night. I love it.
Baylor actually lost tonight in overtime as well to Kansas State. While we're talking about this, BYU is currently up 74-59 over Iowa State, both of them being ranked at 20 and 24 respectively. And then Kansas is up 20 on Oklahoma State, just for our glance around the conference.
Okay. Oklahoma State's struggling.
Yeah. I don't believe they have a win currently in the.
Oh, God, I got to figure out. Are you going to that Kansas game next week? Are you part of that?
No, I am not. I'm not.
I got a chance to go. I think I've got it all ironed out now, but I got to talk to,
Yep.
I'll come home with some roses tomorrow, and I'll be on that trip. I got to talk to Chad about that, but I'm so stoked to go. And you know what? The other night when I was talking to Chad about it, and it's like, okay, I got to look at tickets. I saw like some secondary market tickets, and there was a ticket on there for like $20. It may have been less than that. And I'm like, okay, this is going to work. So if I can get the time to do it and make it happen, I'm gonna be in that Bearcat Journal van and buck up and go and see a game at the Fall.
Real quick, thank you to Tonk TC. Who imagine how good this team could be if we shot over 50% free throws and didn't turn the ball over 16 plus times a game. Well, I got news for you, Tonk.
Right.
They only had 15 turnovers tonight, and they did shoot over 50% thanks to John Newman. They shot 52.4% tonight, Tonk, and they did win.
But I don't get the free throw thing, man. I'm tired of missed free throws, and when they were losing, it was probably after Newman bricked the 2, and I feel so bad for the kid. But I'm like, here's what I do tomorrow. You run suicides, and then you throw them on the line. You got to make 5 in a row. And if you don't, you run the suicide again, and you make 5. I mean, they've got to fix this. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's mental. I don't know. But even the decent shooters are missing these things. And that's something you got to figure out. I think, did Aziz make both, or did he just make the front end and then miss? Because they were really struggling then. But TCU struggled as well. But, man, you have got to make those free throws. And as we know, that's cost them a game or two.
Aziz was 2 of 4. He hit a 1-and-1 earlier, and then he missed 2 more later on.
I mean, you sit there and you're like, I hope UC's not in the bonus. I would rather have the ball out of bounds. I don't want that. That's how gun shy I am watching it miss these free throws.
I was certain in that last possession that TCU was going to foul Cincinnati as opposed to letting them run a play. That's what I would have done. If I was Jamie Dixon, that's exactly what I would have done. I would not have let them shoot or run a play. I would have fouled them and put them at the line and let them try and win at the line, because
I can't argue with that. And you know, that wouldn't be the first time that's happened. Not just for the team, the other teams, you do that. You know, it's like the old hack-a-shack thing back in the day. I mean, that's whatever you got to do to win, you do it. And if you got to put them on the line and make them and make them convert, and you got a team that can't do it.
In fairness, TCU,
baby, put them on there, put the pressure on them.
TCU was 6 of 12 from the free throw line themselves. Not a great night from the line there for them.
That was not a free throw shooting clinic tonight, and it just baffles me that people who play basketball that much and practice that much, that free throws are that bad. And I don't want to make excuses, but these dudes, they're playing their butts off and they're dog tired. But what I don't get is I know there was one, somebody missed a free throw, then they come back and then they end up hitting a three like a possession later. It's like, how the hell does that happen? Like, how can you stand there with nobody guarding you and you miss the free throw? But then I don't know. I guess these guys are just, you know, it's those rhythm jumpers and stuff they're better at, but you got to get this nailed down.
How about this for a stat for you, George? Brent posted this on the old X, but he said, here's a wild Bearcat stat. In each of the last 5 games, a different player has led the team in scoring. Day Thomas with 21 tonight, Dan Skillings with 24 against Baylor, Seamus Lukosius with 19 against Texas, Victor Locken with 17 versus BYU, and John Newman with 16 versus Evansville.
I love a team like that. I'll take that kind of team all day long. I know everyone talks about you got to have the alpha at the end of the game and all that, and there's merit in that. There really is. I mean, you got to have a guy you can rely on, but it's kind of nice when you can rely on whoever that guy is that night and figure that out, and to have all those options. I think that's a huge positive to have a team like that, and not because I remember the days of SK and. Well, Mick always had a guy, you know, Jaron Cumberland, guys like that, Jacob Evans, that you had to rely on to get the bucket down the stretch. Well, guess who else knows that?
Everyone in the arena.
Everyone in the arena that's on the opposing bench. So it's nice to have it this way. And if they embrace that and keep doing it and sharing the ball, shit, that's a dangerous team right there, man. That is a dangerous team. I like it.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. Dan Skillings had a pretty good night tonight. I know everyone's been, you know, with Day and John kind of leading the way offensively and defensively. Dan Skillings.
I've got to be honest here, because early in the game, I go back to what happened on this podcast one night when someone asked about Xavier Dan or Stetson Dan. You know what I'm talking about? Good Dan.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, dear God, I hope it's Stetson Dan tonight. And he started out as Xavier Dan. He really did. But he got it going. He made some plays, and after a very suspect start, turned in what I thought was a really good performance. And the funny thing about him is, well, it's like this whole team. You don't have to worry about him playing his butt off, but he's got to stay in control, and he can't go driving into 3 guys and then hoping to make something happen. But by that one time he threw that ball up, like he made a shot like that at Baylor the other night. I thought it was going to go in. I didn't mind that play. He missed the shot. I thought it was going in. But I love that kid. I mean, and he's got this wingspan. He's like Inspector Gadget sometime. he corralled this one rebound that just I couldn't believe it. It's like the ball's bouncing away from him, and his arm goes like twice as far as you would think and corrals it in. He's fun to watch. He can be frustrating at times, but I give all those kids credit, and Thomas too, for a rough start and coming back and playing the way they did. That was big time, and good players, man. Wes has got him. He's got something going on here, and I think they're really what I hoped what we saw in December with some bad games and some uneven performances it was like a lot of coaches used to do in the past, and they're playing all these different combinations and stuff, and they didn't mind losing games until conference started, and that your team got better as the season progressed. I feel like this team's getting better as the season progresses. In fact, I feel like they've gotten a lot better in the last 3 weeks.
Defensively, they're night and day from what they
Yeah,
were.
thank God, because that's what Wes, he came in preaching defense. And I'm like, where in the H is this defense? We're seeing it, especially when they have to sit down and guard, and it's a key possession. They make it tough. And TCU, oh my God, that 1-3 that kid made, guarded 3 from way out, and then that other one he shot. Oh
yeah, that was the Trey. What was his name? Trey Tennyson. Trey Tennyson.
He was tough. That kid can shoot it.
Last couple things here on the game. These are some of the quotes that Keegan had posted. I didn't have a chance yet to listen to the post-game presser from Wes, but these are some of the quotes that Keegan had posted on X. He said, I thought John Newman was incredible tonight on both ends. I thought that was Day-Day Thomas's best game in league play. I was not impressed with how we started the game. I was pissed, frankly. This team has been great with effort and energy. That surprised me. We've got 2 rookie point guards. That's what it is. They are about everything Cincinnati is about. They are the right guys. And we got to get to the point we don't miss layups. We had a lot of those tonight. One last one. He's been a key to us improving as a defensive team, not just as a guy that is good on defense, but a guy you can rely on. And he's talking there about Josh Reed.
Oh, my God, Josh Reed. Talk about a kid that stuck with it. My son's a big Josh Reed fan and has been since I didn't see it last year. I really didn't. I felt like I don't want to look. I just felt like he was probably in over his head a little bit, and he played that way. He's an asset now. He has turned himself, and the coaches were always big on him. They see him every day. I don't. They recruited him. They know what he can do. I didn't see it in the games. I just didn't see how he was going to help this team this year. He's helped this team this year. And in fact, now it's to the point where tonight I'm like, well, where's Josh Reed? He's been on the bench too long, and they need him in there. He does everything well. He's one of those guys, and he doesn't do anything great, but he does everything well, and he does not hurt you. And then when he's in the rhythm and stuff, he really helps you. I'm really becoming a big Josh Reed fan because he doesn't get out of position. He rebounds. He usually doesn't turn it over or make some crappy, stinking lob pass or whatever. And I'm telling you, God dang it, that first half when they did those lobs and someone lobbed one in, hell, it didn't even, nobody even caught the ball. They lobbed it out of bounds. Quit doing the lobs unless it's really, really there. And then I say that, and then the second half they had a couple nice lobs for dunks. But I mean, it drives me nuts that you're throwing over the top of the defense, and you've got to do it when it's there and you convert. It's not always. It just felt like it was forced to me. These freaking lobs inside. But back to Josh Reed, he's made me a believer, and I wasn't at the beginning of the year at all. And I kind of like his shot too, because that baby is a rainbow. It goes up, it brings rain, and it's a beautiful thing when it goes right through the net.
It is that. I'm sure Chad will get here at some point tonight, and I'll have to do more on the Bearcats, but I don't know if I have any more without going to the Chad well. So
Yeah, don't do that. Don't go to the Chad well.
no, I just mean he usually steers those conversations
Right.
with a different perspective that he has up there in that corner. So
He's sitting right below me.
I know we discussed that last week.
Yeah. I'm nice. I don't throw stuff at him.
That's what you said. You said you wanted to throw him a beer, but
yeah, I tried to send him a beer, but he's working. But I did the same thing when I was actually had a job. I didn't drink on the job either.
Once they changed the rules for media and drinking at sports venues, right?
Oh my God! Yeah, I wouldn't if I was working, but you know how many times I went to UC games, and I'm going to say it, X games with a media pass, but I was off. But you would get beer. You could take beer to press row. You could take beer. Hell, the Bengals and Reds used to do it, but those days are long gone. That disappeared about 20 years ago, or maybe a little more. And it's funny. We used to. I remember my friend Jeff Picoro and I would go to these UC games on our off nights, and I'd see him there. We would do. Remember the old NBA thing when they had these fouls and it was 3 to make 2, like when you were in the bonus and you had a shooting foul, you would get 3 free throws to make 2. There was a weird rule in the NBA. Well, we did.
I don't.
When I would go up, and this lady, you were only allowed to get 3 beers at this booth. This lady would give me 3 beers. I'd bring them back, and me and Picoro would split them, and we'd call that 3 to make 2 because we'd. That's a true story. That is a true story. And every now and I used to see Jeff all the time when he was working up here in Cincinnati. He's down in Lexington now, but when he and I will go out and have some beers or something, he'll be like, "Is it 3 to make 2?" We still bring that up. Oh my God, we had a lot of fun. That was not just back in the 60s. That had to be the 70s, maybe. When did they get rid of that rule, Steve Ross? I want you to look that up. But if it was back in the 60s, holy God, I'm older than I thought I was.
Is that when the Cincinnati Royals were still here in town?
You know what? He may be right now that I think about it. That could have been back. Holy God, how do I remember that? I remember the first time I went to a Cincinnati Royals game, and I went with a neighborhood kid, and we sit down, and the dad had a buddy with him, and we had great seats, courtside seats, and they're playing the what was back then was the Baltimore Bullets, and Wes Unseld, I think, was on that team. And so we go and sit down at the Royals game in the Cincinnati Gardens, and we had a couple of Cokes, and the dad and his buddy had a couple of beers. Well, my friend, we're like in the 6th grade, sees the foam on the beer. It looked like a milkshake. And he looks at his dad and goes, "Hey, why didn't we get milkshakes?" And I'm like, "Hey, geez, those aren't milkshakes, buddy. That's an adult beverage." Geese finally figured that out. They hadn't quit drinking them since. Geese has had a lot of milkshakes over the years.
Unreal. Switching gears here. The NFL playoffs are upon us, and the Philadelphia Eagles lose to Baker Mayfield last night, and the Cincinnati Bearcats' very own Jason Kelce has allegedly had conversations with his teammates where he has informed them that he will be retiring.
Yeah.
Going down as perhaps the best center to ever do it at this point.
Unbelievable career. Unbelievable. And I think he was a 5th round pick for the Eagles, if I remember right. Back when he came out of UC, that's off the top of my head. I hope like hell I'm right about that. But I remember
6th round.
6th round. God dang it. Freaking memories failing me tonight. But so interesting story. I mean, I'm so happy for him, and I've always been happy for him. Everything he's achieved, he's done it with hard work and done it the right way, because that is, I mean, you talk about a dude that can grind and do it. And I mean, that guy eats glass. I mean, he's unbelievable what he's done and what he's done with the Eagles the last couple of years.
Mhm.
And was such a good leader for that team. I mean, just an incredible leader. And I remember him, and when he had his senior season, and I'm working for WLWT, and I'm looking for stories of stuff, and it's like, what's Kelce doing to get ready for the draft? And they're like, well, he's working out at Ignition, and he's going to get to go. I think he was the only UC player that year that went to the combine. He's up there working out, getting ready for the combine. And so it's like we arranged to go up and meet him there, and me and the photographer go up. I'm not going to say who the photographer was. I love him to death, and he's never made mistakes. But we go up, and Jason's up there working out by himself. I mean, he's hitting it hard. He's working his butt off on these weights and these other drills. We're there. We get video of him. We sit him down for an interview. Great interview. He was just awesome. And then we're getting ready to leave, and my photographer's like, holy crap, the battery died in the mic, and I don't know it. I didn't know it, and I don't have any of the interview. And Jason's getting back into his stuff, and I'm like, oh, man.
You've got to be kidding me that you lost an interview with Jason Kelce, and Chad has also lost an interview with Jason Kelce.
Well, I go back to Jason. I'm like, holy shit, this guy is going to drop kick me from here to there. And he was tremendous with us. He was nice to be. I'm like, Jason, I am so sorry, but our interview didn't take, and can we do it again? Yeah, sure, no problem. He couldn't have been nicer. He told us so many good stories, and just so I've always been like really, really, really interested in his career and pulling for him. Because I'll be honest, nobody around here, we knew he was a grinder, but no one knew how that was going to translate to the next level, and that he was going to be the all-pro player he's become, and going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He should be. He's got to be, right?
I would think so. I mean,
he's got to be a Hall of Famer. And,
George,
no one was predicting that when you're drafted in the 6th round. I do know when
George,
hey, Chad.
We did an hour and a half, me and Tim, with Jason. And as soon as I hit stop, the file corrupted and it was all gone.
Oh.
And he was like, I'm sorry. Like, I got to go. I'm sorry, man. And I'm like,
thankfully, mine was only about 15 minutes.
An hour and a half.
Oh, my God. When was this? When he was at UC?
No, this was when he was with the Eagles after he won the Super Bowl.
Oh, gee, many Christmas.
Yeah.
Because I caught him before he was even drafted. Like, this was between.
I mean, we did a bunch of stuff with him when he was at UC, but we actually got him on after the Super Bowl.
Right.
He was awesome. Like, it was incredible. And
I'll tell you what, if that dude would have had the time to do it again, he would.
He would have. Absolutely.
Yeah.
He has left it on the table that he will come on the next time that I ask him.
Good. He's a tremendous guy. And I love him to death. He probably wouldn't remember me. He's had so much happen between then and now.
I bet he would.
But I always, that was one of my, that's one of the best interviews I look back on. And even though the first part, it didn't work, and he said, I'll do it again. He had time working out by himself and sweating his butt off. And I always remembered that and thought, what a good dude. And I pulled for him every step of the way. And I didn't have to pull for him. I mean, that dude just got it done. Love the fact he did that. I'll tell you another real quick story about him when he was getting drafted. And after we did that story on him, we had his head coach on, Butch Jones. I don't think Butch will care if I tell this story. And if you remember, Jason had a part-time job bouncing at the place on Shortvine, Bogarts. And he got charged with something, like it was some kind of, because there were 2 undercover cops in Bogarts, and somehow they got in a fracas. And Jason he's a bouncer. He's getting them the hell out of there. And pretty much he ended up getting charged for tossing them out of there. So the Eagles come in and they're checking him out. So they go to Butch, they talk to Jason, then they talk to Butch. And they're like, yeah, we talked to him about that episode. We just wanted to make sure. We don't want trouble. We want to make sure he's a good dude. And he owned up. He said, this is what happened. It was some undercover cops. There was trouble. I'm the bouncer. I get him out of there. And the Eagles are like, okay, it checked out. The charges were dropped, all that stuff. And then the Eagles asked Jason Kelce, so who won that fight? And Jason goes, oh, I kicked their asses. And so the Eagles loved him from that point on. And they told Butch, if that kid's around late, we're drafting him because we love that attitude. And it's so funny. And his charges were dropped. It wasn't like he did anything wrong, but I always wondered what happened to those undercover cops, because I can only imagine what would I look like if I got in a fight with Jason? First of all, I'm not that dumb. But can you imagine that dude? Like I said, he eats glass.
I have one more great Jason story as well. So we were going to have Caleros on right after, I think he had won his second Grey Cup. And he was up here for spring football for a practice, and I saw him and we chopped it up. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to be like out with my wife, but I should be able to like get away for an hour and come on and do a show with you. So it turns out Zach was going to his wife's sister's house for like a vacation. Aaron remembers this, I think. And so he calls me and he's like, well, I thought it wasn't going to be a problem, but apparently my wife doesn't want me taking away family time with her sister. So it's the day of. It's like 2 hours, 3 hours before the podcast.
We've all been there in those exact situations, but I certainly remember this.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
So Zach cancels. And I'm kind of in panic mode. This is like 3 years ago. Like, this is recent.
Oh, wow.
And at this time, I don't think Kelce still believed that I knew Jason. She thought I just like named her after him. So Kelly's with me. We're going to Galactic Fried Chicken for dinner. I promise I'm not making this up. We're driving.
This is like 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. So we're getting off the exit, and I'm like panicking. Who can I call to try to replace Caleros that will understand? And I'm like, well, Zach was Jason. Like those two are like this. So like, I'll call Jason. So I call Jason and he fucking answers. And which I didn't expect. It's like 5 o'clock on like a weekday during his during his off season. And I'm like, hey man, I'm in a bind. Caleros bailed on me. Is there any way I can get you tonight? And he's like, Chad, I would, but it's my anniversary and I'm in the car with Kylie right now. And if I tell you yes, she is going to murder me. And I'm sorry, but like any other day, I would have saved you. But today I couldn't. And you can ask Kelce. It was the first time she ever heard Jason on the phone. And I hung up and she was like, you actually do know him?
Oh,
like,
God,
yeah.
that's hilarious.
She's like, he answered the phone when you called? I'm like, yeah, he did.
Who, Jason?
Yeah.
When you called him on his anniversary?
Yeah, true story. Verification. You remember, and Chad, you may have been the one that told me who it was, because when he got drafted and he goes and he has his rookie year, we're at the bubble, and I think it's spring ball. And there's a dude there, and then he grew that beard out.
Yeah.
Year, and then he had this little Pierre hat on, like an artist. And he's standing over here, and I'm seeing him from a distance. And I either asked you or Ryan Cosmo. I don't know. I'm like, who's this artist Pierre looking dude over here? And they're like, oh, that's Jason Kelce. And he looked like a guy you'd see in a coffee shop doing I'm not kidding. I'm like, there is no way that's him. And then how about the story? Like he and Caleres and Travis and Wolf lived in the same house. Those four.
Yep.
Look at the rings they have. That like look at the rings. You know, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 Super Bowl rings and 2.
And I think Barwin. I think Barwin was there too.
Yeah, he may have been there too.
I think it was all 5 of them.
Oh my God, that guy! You talk about a funny. Oh my God,
Barwin was hilarious.
oh my God, he was. He won't remember, but he heard someone call me Gramps one time at practice, and he always called me that. That's kind of a nickname for my close friends is Gramps. And oh my God, he looks and he goes, Gramps. I'm like, yeah, some people call me that. And that's all he ever called me after that. Hey, Gramps. Hey, Gramps. It's like, gee whiz. And back then, I really wasn't a grandpa, but I can't deny it now.
Those guys were the best, man. Like we used to do video segments with them interviewing each other.
Oh yeah, I remember those.
That were
They were
so
so much fun. God, they were a blast. They were just characters, freaking characters, and still are.
and legends now.
Oh my God,
I was so sad last night.
Sorry, I should have seen that coming. I was praying to God Derek Wolfe would be a good NFL player, and oh my God, what he's done. He was so good. And
Crazy
I
person.
mean, for God's sakes, Travis, I didn't even think he was going to make it out of UC for a while.
He didn't either.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. God, that was just great. You look, that was a good team. Those were good, grinded out football players, and they were tough as nails, but you just didn't know that they were going to do what they did, and God dang.
I'll tell you what, I was
It's
sad last night to see it end,
yeah, totally.
but
Totally.
the beauty of it is that guy's just starting. Like,
Oh God, no. There's a lot of truth to that.
he's
can
going to
do
be in our
whatever-
living rooms for 30 years, 20
he
years.
can
Like,
do whatever he wants. If he doesn't end up on somebody's pregame show crew or do it at whatever, I'm telling you, that guy's funny as funny gets, and personality, and just obviously knows what the hell he's talking about too.
and an awesome human.
He's like a Renaissance dude to me, because I always go back to that, looking at that guy, and I'm like, who in the world is this Pierre-looking artist guy over
He's
down
the 6'3", 300-pound guy with the fedora on.
He had this beard, and it was kind of trimmed nice, and he could have been in Paris at a cafe, other than his size. And when they said Jason Kelce, I'm like, holy God, oh my God, that was fun. And I'd just done that story a year earlier or whatever, and I couldn't recognize him with that beard and hat. I never realized he'd wear a hat like that.
The thing that always, like, can you imagine being the parents of those two and now
No.
the greatest center ever and a top 2 tight
Two
end
Hall of
ever?
Famers coming out of that house? Are you kidding me?
And they're both knuckleheads. Like,
Right. And 2 guys that weren't highly recruited
right.
at all. I mean, Jason walked on. Travis came as a quarterback, and then it's.
And next thing you know, Mama Kelce's swag surfing with Taylor Swift.
I know that's what I can't believe either. Like I'll tell you what, that's something I would love to talk to her about. She's got to be like, how in the world did this ever happen with these 2 knucklehead sons? But it worked out. They're crazy. But that's why we do this stuff, man. That's sports. You never know what's going to happen, and you never know in those early years how many guys you see what they go to college, and then the way they develop. I mean, look at Brian Cook.
Yeah.
He goes where he started and then transfer into UC. Came out of Mount Healthy. Nobody recruited that kid. He's a player. He's a player.
Well, he's got plenty of time left in his career.
Boy, we took a
one
left turn on this thing, didn't
you did. I didn't think we would end up with Brian. I didn't think we'd end up at Brian Cook, but here we are.
I got a special place in my heart for him too. I love those kids that grind that way and that are diamonds in the rough and don't give up and pursue their dream and do it the way he did. And not only on the field, but he was a damn good student too at UC. I'm proud of that guy. Not that it means anything to him, but I'm proud of him.
Well, one last topic, and we'll get out of here. But the Reds did make a move here this past week and brought a guy home. Brent Suter, left-hand pitcher, comes back. He attended Moeller High School here in the tri-state area. He is now a Cincinnati Red. Last season, he was 4-3 with a 3.38 ERA, 55 strikeouts, and 1.330 WHIP. Nice piece for the bullpen, and bullpen is certainly something that struggled, but I understand that you have a little bit of a connection with one Brent Suter.
It's crazy. I'm so happy about this. And I followed this kid. He was at Harvard, really, really low draft pick for the Brewers. And when you're a low draft pick in baseball, the high draft picks, they push them up the ladder. And
they're fast track.
A pulse, they get to take the next step. The lower draft picks, not so much. You have to earn everything you get. That's what Brent did. And the crazy thing for me is one of my best friends in high school. He and I rode to junior college together every day for 2 years. His father-in-law, my friend Dennis Schaefer, his daughter ends up marrying. I remember Dennis talking to him, and he's like, yeah, my daughter's the girlfriend of this guy that pitched at Moeller, and he's at Harvard now, and he just got drafted, and da-da-da-da-da. So obviously I got a big interest in this guy, and then he makes it to the majors. I shared an apartment with Dennis in Mount Washington back in the early 80s when he was just out of college and starting his banking career, which, oh my God, did he do well. And his wife's tremendous. They're great people. Dennis and Lynn are great people. His Aaron, his daughter, who's married to Brent, the whole family's tremendous. And then the Suter side of the family is tremendous. And it's just kind of a fairy tale that Brent kept pushing his way up the ladder because he forced him to, because he kept getting people out. He's not overpowering. He doesn't blow you away with anything. He just gets guys out. And so they had to keep pushing him up the ladder, and he finally made it to the majors. And I always wanted him to get back to Cincinnati and pitch for the Reds because he was a big Reds fan. And it looked like he might go to the Cubs or somebody else this year, but he ended up with Cincinnati. I'm glad the Reds made this move because they still had, when Nick Krall said they were pretty much done and didn't really anticipate any big moves. And it's like, you guys still got money to spend, and you got a bullpen that might need some help. And this is help for that bullpen. And I am a huge Brent Suter fan. I've talked to him a few times, and he is a tremendous human being. He's got a degree in something from Harvard that I can't even pronounce what. It's some kind of environmental thing, and he may have 2 degrees. He's a unicorn as a baseball player when it comes to smarts. They call him the Raptor. Have you ever seen this Raptor act?
No.
All right, look it up. You'll see.
Right.
He can walk like a raptor, and that's what I didn't know he had, that crazy sense of humor till he got to the major leagues and started doing this crazy stuff with the Brewers. And he's smart as a whip, and a character, and I'm so glad the Reds have him, and I'm so happy for Dennis and his family and Brent and his family. I know his parents are over the moon. In fact, I think that's what they told my former coworker at WLWT, Olivia Ray, that they were over the moon about this move. And to have him come home and have this opportunity to help what should be a pretty good Reds team. I said I can't wait till Saturday. I also can't wait till Reds season. I might have to go down to Arizona one week and check out some games.
Well, the bullpen was not a huge weakness for them. Somehow they figured it out last year. I still don't understand how their bullpen did what they did last year. But
Yeah.
left-handed pitching in the bullpen was definitely a weakness.
That was a huge need. You're right.
Right.
You're right.
So
do you do T-Rex impressions?
I'm not even touching that comment, George. We're not going there tonight.
There's something I don't know, isn't there?
No, we're not going there tonight.
Is it T-Rex the rocker from the 70s? Or
no, as in the dinosaur. But anyway.
So you do thing?
I don't have anything else here tonight. If you don't have anything,
off the hook, buddy, because I like it. Oh, you'll be dealing with Chad, right?
Yeah, Chad and I will do another show after this.
Okay, I'll let you go. Just let him know that all right, I'm going to TikTok.
I'm still here. Aaron, I just said, I said
you disappeared. I thought you went out.
I said Taylor Swift, and Aaron kicked me out of the room.
I did. I kicked him out. That's how we do this.
Well,
we can discuss your fog travel plans though here in the post show.
Yes, I'm gonna find Chad. I'll be in touch. I'll let you know by tomorrow at noon. I got to go find out now, but I think I'm good.
We can discuss this in the post show.
I'm fired up, man. I'm fired up. Hey, can I drive the van?
Yes.
Okay.
Big shifts.
All right. Cool. Because
in any case,
drive. Have you made that drive?
Not all the way to Kansas City, but I drove to LA and back by myself. So
you know what? I may just sit in the back and enjoy some. Oh, I'm not allowed to enjoy Cincy Lights on the road, am I?
Sure.
Isn't that illegal? Is that open container?
Shh. I don't plan on getting pulled over.
Good. You drive the speed limit, and I'll.
All right, that's going to wrap it up. Congrats to the Cincinnati Bearcats on a hell of a win. 81-77 is your final against TCU tonight at home at Fifth Third. The next game coming up, though, is Saturday, 1 o'clock tip-off at Fifth Third as well against Oklahoma.
George, it doesn't stop. Just know, hey, you knocked off number 19. Line up number 14. Let's go.
Do it. Do it.
Who's only out of the top 10 because they lost to TCU.
Hey, wait a minute. That was you in your seat tonight. I saw some guy, but you didn't have a hat on, and your hair's cut.
So my hair's always like this, but I had my sock hat on tonight because it was cold as shit, and I forgot to grab the baseball cap to put on after I took the sock hat off.
I'm like, I can't throw peanuts at that dude. I'm not sure that's Chad.
No, that was me.
I should have gone down and offered you another beer because I know you won't take it. So that saves me money.
No, it's exactly what your plan is, to buy two, offer me one, and then go, oh, that's too bad. Now I got two.
Hey, listen, I'll bring a cooler on Sunday. Bingo.
All right. If you're like George and you want your own Cincy Lights, be sure to check out Remington Tavern. They are located at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, where they have daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m. $5 Woodford Wednesdays. You can find them on Instagram at Remitav, REMITAV, Cincy with a Y, or follow them on Facebook. But until next Tuesday at 9 o'clock-ish, we'll see. I'm sure we have a game again. But we will be back here doing George in the Jungle one more time. Thanks for coming tonight, though. We'll see you next week.